Today we're going to talk about lowering the mast on a 37.5-foot Hunter. And the guidance I'll provide you today will relate to just about any mast of any size. Of course, the larger they are, the more people you're going to need. This one's going to require a crane. You could use a yard arm if the boat is sitting on a trailer. But the steps are basically the same. The running rigging needs to be removed from the mast. The boom is also removed. At this point, we're trying to make sure that there's nothing holding the mast up or connecting it to the boat other than the shrouds on each side of the boat, the forestay. In this case, this is a B&R rig, so it doesn't have a backstay. But if you have a backstay, you need to be prepared to remove the backstay as well. Do not remove any of these cables until the boat is secured with a yard arm or a crane cable. Next, you mount a bridle under the first spreaders. This boat has 2 sets of spreaders, so we put the bridle under the first spreaders. There are a couple of reasons for this. This is pretty typical that the yard arm or the crane isn't tall enough to pick the mast up from the upper spreaders or to strike a balance at the center of the mast. So creating a bridle that goes up to the first spreaders and rides up in a way that you can pull it back down to the deck at any time to unsnag it or to release it where you're putting the mast back up on the boat. And so the bridle needs to be a big circle or a ring, a belt if you will, that lays over the lower shrouds and will secure right around the spreaders themselves, not under any cables that are attached to the mast. Once that bridle is built and the crane is connected to the bridle, then you can tension up the crane cable, and that will help secure the mast in place so that you can remove the shrouds, the forestay, and if you have it, a backstay. Now, with regard to these shrouds, you can release the tension on the shrouds prior to attaching the crane. So what we've done here is we've taped the shrouds at the position they were in before we started doing the release. In the second video, you'll get some more information about being careful not to gald up the threads on the turnbuckles and the fittings on your standing rigging. It's pretty critical. Anyway, this is all loosened up so we can see that everything moves, and this is in a position now that we can release the last cotter pins and the clevis pins so that we can release the cables at the appropriate time. This has a pro-furl roller furling. Pro-furl does not have an adjusting mechanism inside the system, so this is a direct connection from the top of the furler at the mast, not the mast head because this is a fractional rig, but at the mast, and then at the bow roller for the anchor. So there's a pin, a clevis pin, at the very bottom of that system, and that is going to have to be released. In order to get it loose, this rig is pre-stressed with X-pattern cables in it below the first spreaders and between the first and second spreaders. And with all the tension on the rig, the pro-furler could not be released and should not be released. So we release the pressure on the shrouds on each side of the boat, port and starboard, and then we use a block and tackle system and the jib halyard out in front of the pro-furler, and we'll take up tension on the jib halyard so that we can get the tension off the pro-furler and release the pin. Again, none of these pins are released until the crane is in place and the crane has tension on the bridle at the first spreaders. So that's the end of this first video. If you have any questions for me, I'm Miles Hutchinson. You can reach me on the web. Just Google me. Thanks.